Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well. As for this race here, I was trying out the Alfa Romeo 4C, where I also tried out to use a different strategy than usual, because in the previous two videos, I was using the Lamborghini Huracan while using the PSVR2, and on the last one I was trying out the Honda NSX to see how it compares against the Huracan in itself. But for the Alfa Romeo here, it's one of those cars where the tire was actually really good, like relatively speaking, towards the other cars. So I was thinking about maybe it's possible to not even change the tires while going into the pits, because for this daily race in itself, there was a mandatory pit stop where I was also able to gain another position here, like quite luckily. But at the same time, I also try to describe the characteristics of the Alfa Romeo and also why, in my opinion, it's actually a good car to use for this daily race C in itself. Obviously, the weakness of this car is like the acceleration, especially towards out of the low speed corners. It doesn't really have the acceleration needed to fare against the Huracan, unfortunately. Whereas the Huracan obviously can use its four-wheel drive system to just use all the throttle to accelerate out of a corner as best as it can, obviously. And here on that happen, I was also quite lucky to avoid any damage because all of a sudden the cars just decided to stop pretty quickly. And here, as DJ Olive was right in front of me, I decided to go into the pits immediately to try out and finish the race with the same set of tires. Because as I mentioned before, I didn't want to change tires on this car because the tire wear of this car is already pretty good. But obviously, maybe afterwards I should have maybe stayed behind of DJ Olive, maybe for another lap at least, because his pace for this daily race was actually quite good in my opinion. So I could have maybe tried to use the slipstream to save my tires even a bit more towards the end of the race. But nevertheless, with the Alfa Romeo 4C, as I said it before, like the weakness is like its acceleration out of low speed corners, unfortunately. But obviously, its strengths are the cornering speed, especially through high speed corners. Because, for example, on this corner here, it must be turn 3, I believe. I was always able to gain a bit of time towards the Huracan. And then there's also like the final right-hander before you finish sector 2, where I was also able to gain time on the Huracan. So that's like another strength it has. Then obviously the other one, which I mentioned before, was the tire wear of that car. Um, Obviously, relatively speaking, compared to the other cars, its tire wear is really good. But there's still the one fact where you shouldn't really or how should I describe it? Like you shouldn't really treat it too lightly, where you can try to push it as much as you can, because if you do that, then the tire wear of the car will also suffer in the end. So you still have to try to be a bit smooth in the end, but nevertheless, for my outlap here, I tried to push as much as I could in order to overtake as many cars as I could, potentially. Because we started this race from P16, like all the way from the back, and you were also able to see that the cars in front of me were able to pull away from me right on the start. Because normally, the further you start behind, you would also have like a slight speed boost in that sense. So for example, the leader would start the race with around 60 kilometers per hour, but the cars behind would maybe start the race with around 61 or maybe 62 at max. So even by having that, I was losing a bit of time towards the cars in front of me, which wasn't really ideal. So as for this lap here, this must be actually the fastest lap of the race. Yeah, I wasn't really happy with the lap, to be if I'm honest, because on the previous race, I believe I did a 46.9 on the fourth lap actually, without using any slipstream. So because of that, I will also share another video later on where I will kind of demonstrate a little hot lap for this race by using the what is it? Using the Alfa Romeo. Um, it's actually quite a cool car once you know how to drive it, but obviously it still has its few um, issues, let's say. So for example, if you want to downshift from high speed into a low speed corner, you also have to be a bit careful when you downshift. As for this corner, it's not really that difficult, but for example, when you approach turn 1 or the first corner of sector 2, which is like the long low to mid speed right hander, I think this must be turn 4 of this track. If you want to try and brake as light as possible for that corner, obviously in order not to lose a lot of time, then you have to try to still keep your gear as not really as long as possible, but a bit longer than usual, because if you try to downshift as quickly as you can, then the rear would just step out. So as you can see here, I was trying to hold the fourth gear a bit longer and then shift down to the third gear, so that I could still keep the rear stable in the end. So as you can see here, the third lap was a 47.0, like almost a 0.1. And I think I was also able to go purple here. But nevertheless, as I said it before, like it's a pretty fun car to drive, but it also has like its issues here a bit, where it likes to step out a bit. And if you're also wondering why I was using the brake balance settings more towards the rear, that's because in order to save the front left tire a bit more. Because you will see throughout the race that the front left is actually the tire where it wears the most. So because of that, I was trying to put the brake balance setting a bit more towards the rear of the car, in order to save the front tires a bit. Obviously, I would also wear the rear tires a bit more by doing so, but it wasn't really that hard or like that difficult. So moving on towards the end of the fourth lap here, like this is another corner that was a bit difficult to nail it consistently, because if you nail it correctly, then you would be able to gain, let's say, some time on the Huracan. But if you try to brake as light as possible there, or like you go a bit too wide on the left hand side, then the rear would just step out on the Alfa Romeo, and then with the lack of acceleration, it would be a bit difficult to defend your position by doing so. So yeah, maybe if I've done the third and fourth lap a bit quicker, I could have overtaken Randy, who just managed to jump ahead of me after going to the pits. But I think he would have overtaken me anyway, due to him having new tires, I believe, as well as his car having better top speed than my car for this track specifically, especially the acceleration as well. But for this lap here, I was still trying to figure out if he had like new tires or not. At the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, I can kind of easily follow him through these kind of corners here. So I tried to overtake him, which I think you will see on this corner here, like for the straight here, I mean, like I went to the inside. Well, I think it's the outside, right? Yeah, I went to the I went on the outside, but yeah, it's a bit impossible to go into a corner like that side by side with a Huracan or with any four-wheel drive cars. So yeah, because of that, he still managed to defend his position quite well. And at this point, I was like, okay, let's try not to fight too much, because as you can see here, like the guys like Burgio, or Sammy, or like Paolo, like these guys, they still haven't pitted yet, right? So I try not to lose too much time by fighting, so I was using my lights here, where you were able to see it from the reflection of the car in front. But he still decided to defend his position. I was like, mate, I was using my lights, so like, please, let's try to work together. in order not to lose a lot of time to each other, right? Because obviously we can still try to fight against each other towards the end of the race, but for now let's try to work together. Because I didn't wanna try to fight against many other guys in the end. Like if you need to fight for a position against one driver only, I mean it's much better than driving. Sorry, it's much better than fighting for the same position against 2 or 3 more drivers, right? Because not only do you have to focus yourself towards one driver only, but on the same time you have to focus on many more drivers instead. So yeah, because of here, I also went all the way to the outside again, like to the normal racer, like to show him, mate, please, I don't want to overtake him, but I don't want to overtake you, but he still defended his position a bit by doing that. So I was a bit frustrated by that, because obviously I wanted to overtake him or like try to go for the move, but not for now, but like towards the end of the race. So yeah, because of that, as you can see here, like Borju, who was leading the race, he pitted in at the end of lap 6, and I think he also changed to a set of brand new tires. And now you can see that he's going to rejoin the track just right in front of us. And then I was like, if we not really if we, but like if you didn't really defend your position all the time, right? Then maybe we could have overtaken him there. But it's an if scenario, like if. So in so we yeah couldn't change it. So in the end, we had to accept the fact that we ended up behind of him. But it wasn't too bad either because he was just right in front of us, so we were able to utilize the slipstream. Still. Yeah, and this was pretty much, not really pretty much it, but now you will also try to see that the other guys in front, I think the guy in P3 and then also P4, which must have been Ghost Baby, I believe, they already went into the pits, and but like me, they didn't choose. They didn't choose a new set of tires, because the thing here is, if you choose a new set of tires, because of that alone, you will you will automatically lose around 4 seconds, I believe, like 3 to 4 seconds. And depending on the car you use for that race, sometimes it's not really worth to change your tires, right? So because of that, these 2 guys, they decided not to change the tires, but then the other 2 guys who were just right in front of me, they decided to do that. But as I was right behind of them, I was trying to save my tires a bit here, which you were able to see on the brake input in going into turn 1. Like, I didn't really go too aggressive with the input for the corner. Like, I tried to use like a smooth input instead, and I still didn't try to brake at 100% because if you try to drive a bit aggressively with this car, or like with any car in general, then you're just wearing your tires a bit more unnecessarily. And even here, I was trying to brake a bit smoothly here, let the car a bit more, like I let the car roll a bit more, because we still have the slipstream, which gave me the opportunity to pull a bit time on the straight line. So this is actually what I've been doing since GT Sport. Actually, like if I'm stuck behind somebody, then I'm like, okay, then let's try not to overtake the person in front of me, but instead let's try to save the tires a bit more, so that we can maybe use these tires towards the end of the race. And I think it's going to start not on this lap, but maybe on the next lap. where you will see all the drama happening. Oh no, I think it might be this lap here. So now you can see that Randy, he managed to get a penalty for exceeding the track limits at the end of the last corner. And I think at the end of, like throughout this section here, he also tried to go for the move on Burgio, but then unfortunately he cut it a bit too much, the left-hander there, which gave him another 1 second penalty, like 1.5 seconds penalty, 1.5 second penalty in total. And because of that, we were able to gain P4. And now you were able to see the 3 cars fighting for the victory, being right in front of me. So we were still like in the fight for a victory here at this point, which was really cool because despite of everything what happened throughout this race, I never expected to be in this position after all. But then now you can also see, like, if you have better tires at this stage of the race, right, then you can maybe try to go for some moves, maybe there and there, or maybe you can also try to put the driver in front of you a bit more under pressure. And these are all the things I already try to keep in mind while starting the race, because you never know to what kind of situation you will end up with, right? But then here it's a bit difficult to follow the Huracans at the exit of that hairpin there. For this corner alone, I think it's possible, but then they also have like a slightly better exit. But for the high-speed corners, I was able to gain a bit more time towards the leaders. But Bolger was having a really good exit for this corner here. But nevertheless, now you can see the 3 cars fighting for the victory and also try to fight against each other right now. And I was like sitting here in 4th place, also trying to wait for any mistakes they're going to do, right? And here I was like, okay, let's try to go for the switchback, and now see what happens on that corner. Boom. Man, I was so scared when that happened because I was like, oh my god, like they were so close of taking me out as well. But we went from P5, where we had 4 cars in front of us, like fighting against each other, obviously. Now, to us being in P2 and trying to fight for the victory right now against Ghost Baby. So, it was really cool. Because this is another case which shows you if you are patient and if you also know how the race might fall in the end, then you can try to use that as your advantage and as an opportunity to gain some further positions towards the end of the race, so that you can maybe end up finishing on the podium or maybe even fighting for the victory in the end. So even here I tried to fight against them because our gap to P3 was like quite big at this stage of the race. I was like, okay, we can try to fight against each other right now. And here I was also having much better tires than Ghost Baby, I believe. Not only the Alpha being better than the Huracan in terms of the tire wear, but I also tried to save my tires a bit more at this stage of the race. Like here, he almost ran wide, while he almost received another no, sorry. He ran a bit too wide there, where he got the penalty. So at this point, yes, I could maybe stay behind of him to win the race, because he has to serve the penalty anyway, but I still tried to go for it, because if I was ahead of him before he had to serve his penalty, it was like, yeah, then it's my victory. But here, unfortunately, there was a slight contact where he decided to let me pass, which obviously I would say thank you very much, because I think I would have done the same thing if I were in his position, because in the end I would like to try clean, and if you manage to fight against any other drivers cleanly and thus get like the victory in the end, or like a really good result, I think that's more satisfying than pushing somebody out and then getting a result based on that. So at this stage I was trying not to make any mistakes at all, or like not any crucial or easy mistakes, because Paolo was able to close the gap to us quite a lot, and Ghost Baby still had to serve his penalty, but you never know what else might happen towards the end of the last sector here, right? But in the end, it was actually a really cool race, because at this stage here, it was all about trying to bring it back home. We also started from P16, which was also like pretty cool. We were also the only non-Huracan car in this race by using the Alfa Romeo. But I'm also thinking about maybe uploading more. I think one more race with the Alfa Romeo, trying out something else. If not, then maybe I will also try out another car in the end. But in the end, I will also try to upload the hot lap here. But moreover, I hope you guys enjoyed the video here, and I also wish you a nice weekend. So then, hopefully see you guys next week. And until then, take care, guys. See ya.